Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So this video is the continuation of the Mongoose video that we did earlier. So basically it was a MongoDB with Node.js connection, and this video will have all the CRUD operations related to MongoDB and Node.js. So quickly I'm going to show you, this is my database structure. It is user details, which will be having three fields: username, user address and user phone. So I wanted timestamp, so I have done it as true. I've mentioned it as true, and the ID will be the primary key, which is by default automatically generated. So quickly move on to the user.js controller, which will be having all the methods. So first of all, we'll import the model. Model and user details, and we'll jump into the get call for getting the datas. Const get user, which will be a async method. Let user equals to await user.find. So this method will help us to find the datas which are present in user database. If we get any user, then we'll send a response saying success and data, which will be equals to user. If in case the user are not present, then we can pass an error message saying an error occurred. So get call is completed. We'll go to the post method for adding user. Const add user async request response next, and let user equals to await new user, and inside it will define our fields and request body. So what all things we have? Username, user address and user phone. So username request.body.username, user address request.body.user address, and the last one, user phone, request.body.user address, user phone. And when this request body is defined, you can do user.save, which will save the data into database. And if these things are provided, these fields are provided, so we can say a message in response saying new user added with data as user. And in case these fields are not present, then we can give an error message saying some fields missing. So post call is done. Now we'll move on to the get call for fetching the user of a particular ID. User by ID. So const get user by ID async Now first of all we have to take id into parameter, and after that await user dot find by id. So in MongoDB these all methods are provided. You can just use the methods and you can do whatever you want. You don't have to write long queries and all. And if the user is present, similarly we get this. We'll copy and paste. I'll edit the message saying success and the data is user. And if the user is not present of that ID, we'll simply say user doesn't exist. Now we'll move on to the delete method. Const remove user async request response next, and similarly we have to take the id into parameters. Let user equals to await user dot find by id and remove. This method you will use, and inside it will pass the id. So if the user is present, if it is deleted, then we'll have the message successfully removed user with id and just that. And in the else block, if any user is not present of that id, then we'll pass the message saying user doesn't exist. So the final method is the put call for updating data by id. Const update user and let user equals to await user dot find by id and update. This method we'll use, and inside that we'll pass on the request body. So I'll just copy it from this method. User.save just to save the data, and if the details are correct, so we can pass the message saying successfully updated user with id this, and if any error, then we can pass the message saying error occurred, id doesn't exist. So we have made all the 5 methods with all the put, get, post and delete call, and now we have to do is exporting this method so that we can use in our routes. Get user get user by ID, add user, remove user, and the last one was update user. Save it, go to your routes, and here you can define all your route files. Const express is equals to require express const router express dot router. Okay, so now what we'll do, we'll import our controller here. Const user controller require that file. So controllers and then user. And now we'll go on defining the routers for each method. User controller dot get user, router dot get user slash ID in params, user controller dot get user by ID, router dot post user, user controller dot add user, router dot delete user, then ID, user controller dot remove user, router dot put user ID. Update user. So make sure you are adding the correct method name with the correct call. We have to export this router so that we can use in our index.js file. So I have already imported this file here as a router, and at the bottom of the code you can see this line has to be added, app.use/router, so that we can check in the Postman. So you can see the server is running at 3000 and successfully connected with DB. Now go to Postman, and first of all we'll add some datas. So demo data, demo address, and some phone number. If we send it, we get this message saying new user added, and this ID is the primary key. So this is by default automatically generated. And I'll add one more data. So let's say sample data. Sample address and some random phone number. So two, three datas are added into the DP. Now let's check it with get call. Okay, something. Yeah, just change it to small letter. Save it. Go to Postman. And with this call, you will get all the data which are present in the database. Copy one ID and put it in params. So you will get the data of that particular user having this ID. And suppose you want to change the username of this person having the ID, you can go to put call, and for suppose sample data has to be replaced with some random names, so random, and here also address should be random. So we'll get this message, successfully updated the user with ID this, and if you check this user, you'll see the username is updated to random and the address is also updated. Now if you want to delete this user having the ID, so click on delete call and see successfully removed user with ID this, and if you try to fetch the user which is just deleted, then you will get a message user doesn't exist. So in this way you can make your CRUD operations. We'll see many more things in MongoDB and Node.js. Many other things are there. MongoDB is very vast and it is very different from MySQL. So I hope this was helpful, and if you like, please share, subscribe and comment if you have any doubt. Thanks for watching.